And now, you're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's RBLR Sports.
What's up, everyone? Hope everyone's having a great week. It's post-draft week. I don't know if y'all tuned in for our live stream of the draft last week. It was a blast. I had a great time with all of our guests. It was a really, really fun time. But back and better, joining us for the show, my wonderful co-host, the best in the game. Save the rest for the last. Musab Tariq, say what's up to everyone, my friend.
What's going on, RBLR Nation? Happy to be back and happy to be recapping this draft. Feeling overall quite optimistic, to be honest. But that being said, Carter, I want to see how you be feeling about this overall.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that we're definitely going to take a deeper look into in regard to this episode. But overall, I got to say, pretty satisfied with the draft. It was definitely a bit odd towards the end, in my opinion, but we'll get into all that. But overall, pretty solid feeling. But without further ado, we'll just get right into it. No reason to beat around the bush at all. What's your overall grade for this draft? We'll just come right out with that. How are we feeling overall? If you had to put a grade on it, I know people love to grade draft classes. So what's yours?
I'll say this: I'm going A minus.
Ooh, A minus.
I was going B plus,
Mhm.
but I mean, I don't want to go too deep into it. But with the undrafted free agents and those kind of late round moves, I understood those kind of a little bit. I think I'm gonna go. Yeah, I'm gonna go A minus right now. But I'll say worst comes to worst. I think our draft class might go down to like B minus at the end of the season. I think we had a good draft class. I think we prioritized the needs we had to, and we got some other good kind of guys. I think this year was all about depth more than anything. I think we know who we are. I think we know that we're not just gonna draft a couple guys and run it back and win a championship or just cruise into the playoffs. This is a year where we're gonna have to work some things out, and I think we make some good picks. What about you, Carter?
Yeah, I'm gonna go a little on the lower end. I'm going with a B minus, but it's an optimistic B minus. That might sound like kind of a rough grade, but I just think that they waited way too long to draft a secondary guy. I mean, it's kind of tough watching names fly off the board, guys that they could have picked up for the cornerback or safety, whatever. Because they still don't really have a third cornerback. They've got two safeties on the roster, starting caliber safeties. And so to wait until the sixth round to draft one, it was a bit confusing. I will say that day three had me a bit, not stressed, that's dramatic, but definitely not super thrilled with the guys that were coming off the board. But like I said, a B minus, because the first three picks I thought were perfect. They went big guy, big guy, big guy, which I loved. Can't have enough of the big guys. Those are arguably, other than quarterback and maybe wide receiver, those are the most important positions on the football field. So they definitely needed to address them, and they did. And I thought they did an appropriate job doing so. But getting away from just the overall grade, who's kind of the biggest surprise pick for you? Is there anyone that you saw that really made you, I know you got those fantastic eyebrows, that really make you go, like that. Who was the biggest surprise pick for you?
Oh man, it's gotta be Mr. Cody in the second round from North Dakota State. FCS O lineman of the year. It wasn't a huge surprise to me, but it just, I just love how we get these small school, O linemen, and I don't know, the more I've been thinking about it, the more I'm optimistic about this guy. I feel that with this pick, we're gonna move Tristan Wirfs to left tackle, but there's already been reports about that, so it's not only me thinking this. But like many say, this is also kind of like a future fan kind of vibe. Carter, Midwestern big boy with no teeth protecting our quarterback. I'll take it. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
No, but on the real though, I'll say this: the biggest thing that really stands out, the more I looked into this guy, and there was a lot of this which was he's very versatile. So to know that he's a fan favorite, he's a big dog. He's worked his way up as well. He was, he had no, D1 offers either. He just chose North Dakota State because that was really all he could get. He worked his way up. I think there might be special something coming out of him, and I'll tell you this, and I hope he takes advantage of this. But to be drafted second round from a small institution, that should really wake you up. That should really tell you, hey, like, wow, I just got a special opportunity to play in the NFL, and now I'm going to take advantage of it, and I'm optimistic he will. And I'll leave it at that. But what about you? Who is your guy?
Yeah, I mean, the Cody Mouch pick I loved. I was for me that wasn't even necessarily like a oh shoot they went him, but I was really excited as well. But it was a bit of a surprise just because, like you said, of the small school factor. I'm definitely with you. And for them to spend a second round pick on a small school guy, like you said, it's a big galvanizing factor for both the Bucks and Mouch because for Mouch it's like oh shoot like I'm coming from this small school yet I just got drafted second round. That's really, really cool, really impressive. Definitely going to be a fan favorite. But for me, it was kind of my big surprise pick was Servocia Dennis, linebacker out of Pittsburgh. My apologies if I mispronounced his name. That was just a surprise for me, just because I really needed, like, I really thought they were going to go secondary. I hate to harp on it so much, but just because, it was just really weird to see them. I know that the Devin White situation is sticky. They don't really know what's going to happen there. Levante David on a 1-year deal. Certainly understand needing to address the linebacker position in the future and kind of trying to build up that position's depth. But just the secondary, they just need bodies. They need people to play the position. So to not spend a draft pick until the 6th round was a bit shocking for me. So to me, that was my biggest surprise pick. But again, it has nothing to do with Dennis himself. Um, it had mostly to do with just the fact that they didn't go corner. Dennis could be a great linebacker. I hope so. He
Yeah.
seems like a solid player.
Well, I'll tell you this, Carter. I think that what I'll first say is the only two things I really have to say about Dennis is yeah, I mean, I wasn't expecting it either, but it's funny that you bring that up because when I was watching Cansey's kind of highlights, I started noticing this other guy, and I saw that number 7 a couple of times,
Right.
and then when we got him, I was like, oh, would you look at that?
Yeah.
So, is he going to ram these NFL players like he did in college? I don't know. Sure, I guess. I don't know. He's got to work on it. It's a whole different ball game. But he seems like those kind of guys that are still going to stop you. You know what I'm saying? I think he gives me the vibe that he's going to be the kind of guy that gives a lot of other individuals on his team that assisted tackle. I think he's going to be that guy who slows you down, or maybe he rams you, he slows you down. He's going to be that kind of crucial factor to really reducing the yards on our opponents, whether they're wide receivers or quarterbacks or even specifically running back. But I got to say, I mean, hey, listen, we're thinking about Cansey and Dennis, two Pittsburgh guys together, two young workhorses. I like the vibes, but I have to say, I do kind of agree with you. I don't know. This pick was a little bit more of a reach when it comes to strategy. I feel that year by year, or I'll say this, these last couple of years, we've been talking about really prioritizing that secondary. So yeah, knowing that our first safety or DB was in the 6th round it raises your eyebrows. But my question is, Carter, were there not a lot of holes to fill during this draft? So does it not really kind of come down to that? Is it just that we had a lot of holes to fill and we kind of had to choose our priorities with the holes that we had to fill?
I think that's a great point. When you have so many roster spots that need to be, you need to have guys fill them. Absolutely. That's a great point. It's certainly something that you got to think about from the Bucks perspective. They just had to prioritize who they wanted and where they fit on the draft boards and everything like that. But I do love you mentioned the Pitt connection. That's going to be fun to watch. The whole Dennis and Clancy combination. Hopefully they're around for a long time. And if Dennis was picked in the 6th round, or if he was the 2nd, 5th round pick, I would be all for it. It would be very exciting if they went corner and then him. Very excited. But it's just because they didn't. take advantage of the early 5th round pick that they got. But regardless, I digress. I'm still excited about this draft class. I don't mean to come down super hard on them, but speaking of surprises, there were a few quarterbacks that kind of fell. Whether mostly I'm thinking of Will Levis, because he fell out of the 1st round, and the Titans ended up trading up to get him. Were you a bit shocked that maybe the Bucs didn't try to trade up in the 2nd round to get Levis, or if they maybe didn't take a pick on a quarterback later on in the draft? Was that kind of a shock to you?
I would only be open to get a quarterback like I'm talking last round or something.
Right, for
I
sure.
was this whole time, I know Zach was kind of pro quarterback in the early
Right.
rounds or whatever. Um, but no, I just think that I'll be honest with you. I don't think that Baker Mayfield is the guy, but I'll tell you this: if we really build a team around him, I think he can do mediocre. I'm not coming in this year thinking, oh, let's just start booming again. We're back at it. Let's just start playing risk it. Um, we still have to be smart with our moves. I think the biggest thing that I love about this whole draft, Carter, is I think that we really focused on the two biggest things. And I'm going to put number three as defensive backs, but the O line and the D line. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So that's where we're looking at right now. That's why I'm kind of I'm satisfied with the whole kind of Dennis pick, just because, as you mentioned, with the whole D White Levante David situation going on, we don't know what D White's going to do. Levante David is with 1 year left, so that's why we kind of got we got a guy like him. But I just think that we are going through a different phase on this team. I think this is something that we haven't gone through before. I think in the past, while we had Jameis, I think that we were just trying to just build around Jameis, but we got rid of him because he didn't work out for us. And then we had, Tom Brady, and it was just all sunshine and rainbows. Now we're going through a different phase where it's not like it's over, but I think that we have a lot to work on, and that's where we stand. I think that we're going to be ending up as those teams that you don't really trash on, but you also don't say, oh, oh wow, well, look at this team, they're looking real hot. I think we're just going to be semi-relevant this upcoming year, to be honest.
Yeah, very middle of the road. And I love the fact that you brought up the Bucks trying to build around Jameis. And I think that the Bucks shouldn't, I think teams fall into this trap all the time where they rush they throw the baby out of the bathwater, or whatever that saying is. They rush to get a quarterback, but it's because the GM's on the clock and they need to get their own guy, and then it's like, oh shoot, we gotta start him immediately, and it's like, and then they turn out to be trash. Zach Wilson, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield.
And Marcus Mariota.
Marcus Mariota,
It's funny you
exactly.
brought that up. You remember when Marcus Mariota went against us? Wasn't his
Yeah,
his first couple of drives like a touchdown, and everybody
right.
was like, "Oh my god! Like, did the Bucs just screw up and they should have chose Mariota instead of
Yeah,
Jameis Winston?"
right.
Now, now look at them both. So
Yeah, they shouldn't have gone either one.
it's personally, I'm just very hesitant to draft a quarterback unless. Then again, honestly, no, I take that back. I'm always going to be hesitant to draft a quarterback in the draft, just because it's, oh man, when you draft them, you really hope that they shine, and if they don't, it can really bite you in the butt.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a safe draft. That's the best way of putting it. Like you said, smart, and I think smart and safe. They didn't want to, because Will Levis could be a great quarterback, but no one knows. Even the top four quarterbacks that were picked, they're great talents, but no one knows if they're going to turn out to be superstars or whatever. And the Bucks just aren't in a good position to build around a quarterback right now. They need to build up the team around it because it's an aging roster. They need to infuse it with some more young talent other than the quarterback position. So like you said, I was very excited to see them not go QB in this draft at all. Yeah, even if they went 7th round, that would have been fine. But yeah, definitely early rounds, stay away from it. And they did. Shout out to Jason Light in the front office. They didn't give in. So speaking of kind of missing on players, because we're talking about missing on the potential quarterbacks, even though I think we both agree that they didn't really. But was there a position maybe that you thought maybe the Bucs should have addressed it. The first one that comes to my mind is the running back position. I was a little surprised that they didn't go running back maybe at the end of the draft, but at the same time, I do understand the positions that they did select in each slot, but maybe you have a different position that you thought they should have addressed in the draft.
If anything, I would probably, bump up the running back and the whole defensive back situation just a little bit. For example, I don't mean to put him down or anything, but I think, looking at Trey Palmer, I think he's a phenomenal guy. It just it just comes with a lot of perks either. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure we'll talk about these later rounds either as well, but Trey Palmer has his pros and cons as well. But I'd rather get a defensive back or a running back with pros and cons in that kind of round. To be honest, Carter, I'm happy with the first couple rounds. I think Dennis in the fifth round was, if anything, a little bit of a reach, but I'll be like, whatever, fine. But after that, it's time to really hammer down those kind of positions. Looking at the fifth round when we got Durham from Purdue, again, whatever, I understand. But after that, Trey Palmer, Jose Ramirez, that's where it's like, that's where I'm kind of looking for those hidden gems. But then again, how many hidden gems are there when you're talking late in that round? Carter, long story short, I just think that there were a lot of holes that we had to fill. And it really came down to thinking about, what we really need to focus on. I'm still going to just stand with what I was saying before with the whole offensive line, defensive line priority. And I think we did really good on those kind of ends. And that's what I really care about the most. And I'm hoping, maybe we might work something out with these undrafted free agents, but it was an interesting draft, and that's why I'm kind of going A minus, B plus. A minus just because I'm optimistic, but if it's really going to result at the end of the season, or not at the end of the end of the summer, right before the preseason, I'm thinking probably B minus, B plus or something. But yeah, I'll leave it at that. It's again just we have a lot to work on. It was an interesting off season. This is a whole new chapter in the Buccaneers organization. I think that we are going through a lot of changes. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I mean, like you kind of said, it's definitely kind of tough to say that there was a position that they missed because there were so many positions that they had to fill. There's only so many draft picks, there's only so many choices that they could have made. So I'm kind of with you. There's it running back definitely, and going a secondary guy, a safety or something, definitely could have been the move instead of maybe Jose Ramirez at the end. But we're also talking about sixth or seventh round picks, so it's tough to squabble over or kind of nitpick over those types of picks. But go in the opposite direction. Is there? I mean, I know we talked about Cody Mouch, so I think that might be your answer. But do you have a favorite pick from this draft, like a guy that you look at and think, "Oh man, the Bucs really nailed it right on the head with this pick"?
Yeah, I mean, I would probably say Cody, but oh man, this one's. I'm quite satisfied with most of these, but I'll say Cody. If not Cody, I'll tell you this: what might be somewhat of a steal. This is just going to be a hot take because I was kind of looking down on him. But what I will say, this is Carter. It's always nice to have a great returner, and I'm
For
talking
sure.
about a sixth-round pick, wide receiver Trey Palmer from Nebraska. This guy's the fastest wide receiver in the 2023 NFL draft.
That's true.
And he also balled out. Carter, is he the player that the team believed that Scotty Miller could be or should be?
I don't know. I hope so. Yeah, it's definitely the perfect 6th round pick because he's a super high upside guy, but also he has little to no route running skills.
Yeah.
He can be a bit physically dominated in the wide receiver role, but like you mentioned, the special teams service is great because he could be a tremendous punter kick returner, especially with his speed. So
Well,
yeah,
it just makes me think. With all due respect, I don't know much about Devin Tompkins, but he's our starting returner right now. So I'm just wondering. I think this is it's a fair ball game for all these new guys to go out there and see who's the best returner. And now we're looking at it. We got Julio Jones, Perriman, Scotty Miller, who are no longer with the team. And as of right now, we're looking at Tompkins and Geiger. And also joining the mix is now Trey Palmer. You know what I'm saying? So I say we toss them with the returners, but I'm going to say this. I think it sounds a little bit odd, but I have to say it's not just about the returners. You know what I'm saying? It's about the special teams. It's about training these special team guys to really prioritize the right blocks for him. To really kind of get down the field. So I don't know. That's my second kind of guy, if not Cody Mock. I'm saying, from North Dakota State. I'm looking at Trey Palmer. I thought it was a unique pick. The other guys, I'm just straight up excited for. I thought they were very reasonable. I think they're going to ball out. I mean, I think they're obvious. These guys come in hot. Especially like Cansey, our first round pick. I mean, I think he's going to develop a lot. He's going to wreak some havoc. Just imagine. I don't think anyone's going to feel comfortable going against Vita Vea, Devin White, and this guy coming up in the middle. You know what I'm saying? I'm all about it. Seriously. So, yeah, that's where I stand. But what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think my favorite pick, I mean, obviously, Yancey and Mouch are definitely the two most fun picks because they're the first two picks. They're the first and second round picks. But Trey Palmer was definitely a guy that I was looking at as one of my favorite picks. But I also, I really enjoyed the Jose Ramirez pick because he kind of comes from a smaller school, but his production's really high. So he's kind of one of those interesting, is the production because he played at Eastern Michigan, or is it genuinely because he's a really, really good player? It could kind of go either way. And you can never have enough pass rushers. So, that's kind of my take on it.
Yeah, no, yeah, Carter, I'll tell you this. I was thinking the exact same thing. But the only thing I have to sprinkle on is, oh man, I don't know exactly where I found it, but I mean, you can find it on a lot of websites. Jason Light had a lot of good things to say about him. So it just makes me think, if you're a 6th round, kind of pick like this coming from Eastern Michigan, and you have someone like Jason Light, talking good things about you, I have a lot of optimism. I don't think he's just going to come out of nowhere and become the star, but I'm thinking this year might be more about these depth players kind of supporting the starters. Okay, I don't think that our overall team is just going to become the next Super Bowl champions, but I think this is going to be well, the next 2 years are going to be more like a trial year, figuring out where we stand and all that, and I think we'll put the puzzle together. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
I think that right now our team is going through a project where we're, getting all these young bucks. We're throwing in these young bucks out there, especially with our O line and D line. Our O line and D line, I've got a bunch of young guys. You know what I'm saying? I'm 25, and I feel like half the O line is younger than me now, Carter. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I know
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah.
So that's the way I feel. I think we're working on with the project, and that's fine. I think we got the right cast and all that, and I wish them all the best. And it's time to see who's going to stand out. Um, I'll just leave it as I think we've reached a point, Carter, where I'm satisfied with our picks, but the most important thing with every single draft pick, whether you're undrafted or drafted, is how are you going to adjust in the NFL? So there's that.
For sure. Yeah, and I mean, what I would really love to see from these draft picks, I mean, if they really wanted to become my favorite, is if they started rocking some RBLR stuff. If they started wearing some RBLR shirts or hats, or just supporting the store. It's shop.rblr.com. You got that promo code Cannon, CANNONS. That gives you 10% off everything at the store on your purchase. And for any of you new draft picks, if you're trying to rock some Tampa Bay threads, definitely check it out. If you're trying to check out the more local sports teams, Rays, Bucs, Lightning, Rowdies, we got it all. So definitely take a look. Definitely take a meander, a gander, whatever the word is. I like to use big words that I don't know the meaning of to make myself feel smart. Anyways, but yeah, definitely check that out. Gotta check out the fresh threads. But moving on. So now we got to move on. You mentioned it earlier in the episode, but Wirfs has been mentioned to move to the left tackle position, switching sides. They're moving. If this happens, Luke Gadecki would reportedly move back to his college position of right tackle. So what are your kind of initial thoughts? I mean, my personal, initial reaction is just that Mouch played left tackle in college. Put him at left tackle. Why not just leave him there? Leave Wirfs at right tackle, and then Luke Gadecki, let him try to win the left guard spot, because man, putting a guy who got benched last season, arguably your worst offensive lineman, at the right tackle position it's a bit weird. It's a bit risky, because that edge can be really dominated against the pass. But then again, maybe a struggling second round pick, you did spend a second rounder, you move him back to his natural position. That makes it more of a natural fit. And Wirfs is an amazing, amazing tackle. And to protect a quarterback's blind side is really important. So moving him to left tackle, maybe also try to boost his trade value a little bit in case you want to trade him next year. But anyways, I've spoken enough. Musab, what are your thoughts on moving Wirfs to the left side of the line?
I think we should just try it out. I say we try it out. I see how we. I think even when you're talking about Mouch as well, I think we're gonna make some adjustments early on. I think we are going to be. My hot take is I think we're gonna figure this out before the regular season. I think we're gonna have some weird dinks and doings in the preseason, because we're gonna just toss these guys around, figure out what's going on. But it's gonna take some time. But what I will say, I think we're gonna have it figured out. I say we throw Mouch in the starting line. I'm still very kind of iffy on Gadecki. I think Wirfs is, if we need him to, I think he's going to be able to adjust. But I think that's the big elephant in the room, is thinking. I feel like if anyone's stressed out right now, it's probably the offensive line coach. Okay.
Yeah.
because all right, congratulations, you got the picks now. All right, but here's the hardest part, is figuring out, where to put the guys here and there, because you got some guys who are a little bit more versatile, like Wirfs and Mouch. Okay, so that's what I'm kind of thinking about right now. Is as we get closer towards the regular season, I hope we kind of have it solidified. I do not want these things to be experimented during the regular season. That's my only thing. Is I hope we kind of get a little aggressive in regards to figuring out, who fits in where. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, and I think the versatility is really important, because they signed Matt Feeler, Robert Hainsey can line up, center or guard really. So and Luke Gadecki's kind of a versatile piece as well that you can kind of move around. Cody Mouch seems to be slotting into guard, but he played tight end and defensive end in college. So he's super athletic. It seems like he would maybe be able to do anything. So I'm really excited to see how they kind of move those pieces around. But like you said, it would be great if they could solidify it for the regular season, so that they're not, awkwardly moving guys around, trying to figure things out like they kind of were last season with Gadecki, moving him in and out of the lineup. It was a bit awkward. So I'm with you. It definitely would be great if they could figure it out before the regular season starts. So now we can get more into the official grades. We've kind of talked about the draft from a general sense, more from a broader perspective, but let's just get into it, going pick by pick, just grade each pick, give your grade, give an explanation, and then we'll keep going from there. So obviously the first round was Kalijah Cansey, the defensive tackle out of Pittsburgh. I'm going to give this one a B+. I thought he was, he's a really, really, really good interior defensive lineman. I think that he provides a lot of what the Bucs need. They're losing, Akeem Hicks, as well as I think Golston's gone. So they needed someone to line up with Vita Vea on that defensive line. And I think he'll do a phenomenal job. Musab, how about you? What's your grade for this first round pick?
I'm going to take A-. I'm going to take A- because I think, the Buccaneers kind of have this kind of priority, or I feel like this mission where, they want to, rush the passer, and they want to get that kind of beast. You know what I'm saying? He's a rushing specialist. Kind of gives me like McCoy vibes a little bit too. And I just think that, hopefully he's going to work out real well with the rest of the D line. He's a big dog. I mean, he's 6'1", but 280. And I'm just optimistic about him, honestly. So that's why I'm putting A-. especially because he is our first round pick. Um, I don't know. I mean, he can screw it up easy, but I'll tell you this: if I'm the first round pick, I'm going to be working like a dog, no matter what team I'm on, because I am the first round pick on that team. So I expect the same out of him.
For sure. Yeah. And I'm sure he realizes the big expectations that he has. But yeah, I mean, like you said, he's had some lofty Aaron Donald, comparisons. And if he meets even half that, it'll be a slam dunk home run hit of a pick if he even becomes half of the player that Aaron Donald has been. So maybe need to dial it back just a little bit with the Aaron Donald stuff. But, he is a phenomenal player. And even if he doesn't work out, I love the pick and I love the position that the Bucs went in round one. And I think that Vita Vea being a mentor will really, really help because you saw that, when Vita Vea came into the league, he had Ndamukong Suh kind of lined up next to him. And I think that guidance will really help make him successful at this next level. If he can really just kind of, learn what it means to be a defensive lineman at the NFL level. I know that's kind of cliche, but it's kind of as simple as that,
Oh no, it's exactly true.
for
If you
sure.
have good leaders, you have good leaders. You're a good learner. You pick it up, and that's about it. The guy has the skills. You know what I'm saying? A lot of guys out there, they have the skills, but some of them are slow learners. Some of them are quick learners. You know what I'm saying? Or some of them don't want to learn. You know,
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. You can only,
we don't know that, but that's just how it works. You know, it's not hard. I mean, these guys are beasts. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to take this guy to the weight room to teach him how to lift.
right.
You have to take him to the field and give him some strategies and some kind of tips as to how to succeed as a lineman. Okay,
Absolutely.
so that's really about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And, excuse me. Luckily, Vita Vea, one of the best interior linemen in the NFL. So he's got a good teacher. But moving on to the second round pick, the guy we've been talking about a lot, Cody Mauch, the tackle out of North Dakota State University. I'm going to give this one an A minus. I love this pick. I think that Mauch is going to be phenomenal. I think he's going to be a great fit with what the Bucs want to do with their offensive line moving forward. It's no longer the Brady era Bucs. This isn't some high flying, explosive offense that's going to push the ball down the field. Baker Mayfield's their quarterback. For better, for worse, whatever it means, they're going to be running the ball hopefully a lot more. They're probably going to get a little more creative with their play calling. And I think an athletic guy on the offensive line like this is really going to help because hopefully they'll get some motion in, just change some stuff up from that boring Byron Leftwich offense. So I think Mauch is a great fit, A minus. How about you, Musab? What's your grade for this one?
I'll tell you this: Cody Mauch is the kind of guy that you always root for, no matter what, coming from a small school. Okay, but this guy, he is versatile, as I mentioned already. He's like Ryan Jensen 2.0. I don't know. Honestly, I love it. I'm just gonna put it as an A, not an A minus or an A plus. I I don't know if I want to give anyone an A plus minus a couple of people in the past, but yeah, I'll give him an A. I am mad excited about this guy. Oh man, I can't wait till they officially sell those jerseys or whatever. You know what I'm saying? This guy's a fan favorite. I think he knows that. He's a second round pick from North Dakota State. I've already said some of these things before in the draft, in this podcast earlier about this draft, but this is big. I'm very optimistic about this guy, especially because, you're not looking for skill positions from an institution like this. We're still thinking about, we're looking for the big dog. I feel like he has a chip on his shoulder. And I'll tell you this, you know what, Carter, if he wants to screw this opportunity up, then so be it. That's fine. You know what I'm saying? But if I'm coming from an institution like his, with a background like his, I'm going to come in not hungry. I'm going to come in starving for that starting position, or maybe just that kind of rotational position. He's not just going to be some random bench player. This guy's going to get his opportunity. Now, how much he wants to shine, that's up to him. But I really do think he has it. I don't think there's some special traits. I just think that he's an absolute monster, and he was, FCS O lineman of the year, and that shows it. So I think he's ready to show these big dogs in the NFL that just because he went to the FCS doesn't mean nothing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm really excited about this pick. I think it's going to work out really well. So let's move on. We're going to the third round, 82 overall edge rusher Yaya Diaby out of Louisville. I'm not, stoked about this pick, but I definitely love the fact that they went edge. I think it was a very, it was a need. They have Shaq and JTS as their starters right now. Shaq's coming off an injury, and JTS still hasn't really shown first round. He hasn't really played up to his draft billing. So I think it was a huge need. I'm going to give it a B, just because it was maybe a teensy bit of a reach, like a teensy bit. And I also think maybe they could have gone corner, but I'm not going to look too deep into this one. B is, like I said, edge rusher is always going to be a need no matter who you are. So I'm going to go B with this one. How about you, Musab? What's your grade for this one?
Well, I'll start off with what you said about the whole cornerback situation, and I do understand. But I want to be honest with you. Looking at how others felt, and I saw some articles about Diaby as well. I think if the Buccaneers' kind of priority was to get a nice, strong, and fast offensive and defensive line, I think we did pretty darn solid getting a guy like him. We got Kancey, Mach, and Diaby, and I think it just worked out real well. All right. We're going toward this approach, especially during the beginning of the draft where we're, prioritizing depth on positions we obviously need to focus on. Okay. So I'm going to say I'm content with this pick. I mean, it's not my favorite either. I'm going to give it a B plus just because we're looking at third round. But I will say, uh, again, I like the story. It's been a journey for this guy. He was coming in kind of light into college. I'm pretty sure I read an article on him. He was like 6'1", 210. You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
Mhm.
now he really sized up, and he's looking mad disruptive. So, but I will say is the only con I have as to why I put him at B plus is he's only really had 1 year of production, which was back in 2022, this last year. But he's come a long way, and I think that he's a lot of good things going on for him. I don't have too many high expectations, but then again, I think that he will fit in well with the rest of the guys. And when you're talking about that whole kind of mentor thing with Kancey and Mach, I think Shaq Barrett's going to be a good mentor for this guy.
That's a great point. Yeah, I mean, because Shaq kind of came up with the Broncos, and Von Miller kind of filled that role for him. So it would be great to kind of see, life comes full circle kind of thing. Yaya comes in and kind of learns the ropes from Shaq, and then it's kind of like I said, a full circle moment for the NFL. That would be wonderful to see for sure. Yeah, I mean the veterans on this team are going to be huge for these draft picks coming in. But now moving on to our next pick, they skipped the fourth round. But they went fifth round, 153 overall linebacker out of Pittsburgh. We've already mentioned him a few times. Servocia Dennis. I've kind of made my feelings on the pick known a little bit. I'm going to give it a C plus, not because of Dennis himself, but just because of the defensive back need that they didn't address. And it's a bit tough. But Dennis is looks like a pretty solid linebacker. He's definitely a blitzing guy. He had 7 sacks last season, which was one of the highest totals in FBS, which is really, really impressive, especially in a Todd Bowles defense. Devin White has been fantastic about getting after the quarterback. So hopefully Dennis can kind of fill that role in the NFL. Playing along Kancey, his former teammate at Pittsburgh, now teammate with the Bucs organization. So yeah, C plus is my grade. What's your grade for him, Musab?
Oh man, I'll tell you this. Yeah, I was a little bummed out, thinking, hey, when are we gonna get that DB? Looking at round 5 as well. And when we picked him up, I said, wait a minute, this guy's from Pittsburgh as well. Hey, okay, you got that little chemistry going on with Kancey, but I'm gonna give him a B minus. I feel like I've been a little bit more optimistic than some of your kind of picks, Carter. But no, listen, I wouldn't be surprised if this guy falls either. You know what I'm saying? It's the biggest thing that, all these kind of later round picks that I'm thinking more and more harder about is, how are these kind of later round picks going to adjust in the NFL? Yeah, I mean, I think he has it in him, but then again, I mean, I don't know. I feel like, he bullied these college boys out there, but now he's going against a whole different breed. Yeah, 2 Pittsburgh guys together, that's cute. yeah, they're young workhorses, but I mean, again, that doesn't really tell me, yeah, they're definitely guaranteed to do well together either. So, yeah, I'm gonna go B minus. I'm just gonna be nice with it, but I wouldn't be surprised if I immediately start feeling C plus, C minus, like with the beginning of the season. You know what I'm saying? So,
Right.
uh, yeah, just I'll say this, Carter. I'm not gonna lie to you and say that I was thinking the exact same thing as you. But what I will say is, between the third and the fifth round, I was definitely thinking that we were strongly considering a DB in the fifth round. You know what I'm saying?
For
Just because we
sure.
got Diaby from Louisville. So that's what surprised me a little bit, was like, okay, fine, we got Dennis. I watched the highlights. They talked about him. I was like, all right, whatever, fine, I understand. Sure, it's not like I work in the front office, but not my favorite pick, not my favorite position to get this guy in the fifth round, but I'll take it. Maybe we have some tricks up our sleeves.
For sure. Yeah. And I mean, like I said, this has less to do with him. It always has less to do with the player and more to do with the fit and the pick. Like just the other positions of need. But moving on to the next fifth round pick that they had, it was a tight end out of Purdue, Payne Durham. Um, I'm going to give it a C. It's just they already got a kind of a, I don't want to say a bona fide starter because he wasn't dominant last year, but Cade Otton's position as the starting tight end is relatively solidified. I feel like maybe Payne Durham comes in and takes his spot. And again, this has less to do with Durham as a prospect and more to do with the fact that they had 2 fifth-round picks and neither of them went on a defensive back, which was disappointing to see. But he's a big body tight end. He's kind of like Otten. He can kind of be a pretty serviceable blocker, but also be kind of a red zone target. So I dig the pick if it was in the 6th round, but because it came before a defensive back, just kind of made me cringe a little bit. How about you? What's your grade for this one?
You know what, man? I'm gonna play a little hardball with this. I'm going D with him. If it turns out he doesn't do too well, and it turns out that our sixth round doesn't do too well, because I was thinking once we got Dennis, I was like, all right, come on, like it's DB time. You know what I'm
For
saying?
sure.
And now it's tight end time. Listen, I'll say this. Look, the guy's got it, okay? Yeah, he's a big body, but he's not gonna beat anybody down the field. Yeah, he's physical, he's got that size with him, you know what I'm saying? But just because our tight end room kind of lacks that star power doesn't mean we just start, reaching for these kind of guys.
Right.
He's heavy and physical. I think, if he needs to protect, our quarterback, I guess he can, whatever. I see him as a decent backup, not even a reliable one either. But I have to say, I'm only disappointed with this pick because this was the height of it, Carter. Okay. This was thinking, well, uh, you want that DB already. You know what I'm saying? So,
For sure. Yeah.
uh, fine, I'll take it. But I gotta say, then, with the DB we got in the 6th round, I hope it worked out. And I know we're about to talk about him right now, but that's all I gotta say about Durham.
For sure. Yeah. And I mean, the good news is hopefully his best days are ahead of him. He's kind of a project player, and teams love that in the late rounds. They love to draft guys that are new to the game of football because they feel like they can develop them. He's a lacrosse player, but he's still, he's still learning the game. He's a smart guy, so he'll pick it up. But yeah, we'll just have to see how it works out. And you mentioned it. We're moving on to the 6th round pick at 181 overall. Josh Hayes out of Kansas State. He's a versatile guy. He kind of played a little bit of cornerback and a little bit of safety in college. Definitely quick enough to play either position. So it is a nice little fit. He probably can fill in as a nickel guy. He kind of has that build. So I'm going to give this one a B. But I would have loved for it to have been the second, you know, the second defensive back off the board. If this was their second guy, oh man, that would have been exciting because then they could really have a pretty solid secondary. Spending. I know it's weird spending back to back picks on the same position, but I don't know. I would have been really excited to see that. What about you, Musab? What's your grade for this pick?
This one, I'm content with it. I think he's versatile. I'm just a little bit indifferent about this pick just because the only thing I saw about him was he didn't really stand out in one area, which is probably why he wasn't on most mock draft boards. But I'm happy we got a solid safety. I think he's going to do good. He's got a chip on his shoulder, as already mentioned. Some of these guys, they got to prove something. So I'm overall optimistic. I'll tell you this. I feel like I have less to say about these later picks. It's just harder to really analyze these guys that most people don't really think about. But so be it. Who knows what happens? But I'll finally take it, Carter. You know what I'm saying? If we didn't draft,
Right.
oh my God, if we didn't draft, like a 6th round like DB,
Yeah, it would have been concerning for
oh
sure.
man, this is when I would have got a little fussy, saying, okay,
A
like
little fussy.
drafting the DB. This is when I would have walked out of the bar saying, you know what, maybe I'm not watching no more Buccaneers football. No, I'm kidding. I wouldn't say.
Right. No, I'm with you though.
Yeah, I would have been surprised. No, this was like kind of like this was kind of like finally, you know what I'm saying? You're watching the
Right.
TV, you hear the final pick, or finally you hear the pick. The Buccaneers draft Josh Hayes, 6th round, pick 181. You're like, oh my God, finally we got the DB. So
Yeah.
you know what? I wish him all the best. We see how it goes. That's about it.
For sure. Yeah, I think he's a solid 6th round pick. He's going to provide some special teams help as well. Because he's pretty fast. He ran a 4.44. Shout out to Wendy's, the fofo. But he's going to do a good job on special teams as well. So I think that will provide some roster security. But up next, we got wide receiver Josh Palmer. Speaking of special teams, he could be a potential return guy. He ran a 4.33 40-yard dash, which is nasty as hell. I mean, that's just ridiculous. So much speed, and that's something the Bucs have lacked for a while now. They kind of went back-to-back speed guys on both sides of the ball with Palmer and Mr. Hayes. So, it's kind of interesting to see them kind of change it up a little bit, because they definitely were not emphasizing speed with their past few drafts. And Palmer brings it. He's definitely a big play guy, but his route running leaves a lot to be desired. There's a reason he fell to the 6th round. And he's just a bit on the smaller side, kind of a weird guy. He can be the slot guy, but he can also be an outside guy, kind of a tweener. Hopefully he becomes big play Trey this year. That's kind of the goal for the Bucs when it comes to this pick. So I'm going to give it a B as well. I thought it was a really solid, right in the perfect pocket. This was exactly where I think they needed to go wide receiver. Musab, how about you? What's your grade for this pick?
Grade is, I'm just going to go C because it's already so late. You're looking at a wide receiver who's probably has a very low chance of becoming a relevant wide receiver. Okay. But he might have a decent chance of being a good returner. And this is what I'm looking at. The guy got the wheels. Okay. And I was thinking about what the whole, I already asked the whole kind of question about Julio Jones, Perriman, and, Scotty Miller gone. I think, if anything, this guy's just going to be our special teams kind of guy. Maybe, you throw him in here and there, big play Trey. Honestly, I really just hate to just say it, but I think he's going to turn it to be the next Scotty Miller. He comes in clutch here and there. But I'll say this, though. I really do like him at the special teams position. I think we prioritize special teams, especially looking at our offense and defense, but more importantly, our offense situation. We want to get as many yards in as possible before, Baker Mayfield or Kyle Trask comes on the field. You know what I'm saying? I don't
For
want
sure.
these guys starting from the 20 line. I want them starting from the 50 or 40 line on the opponent's side is what I'm saying. So
Right. Trying to
that's
flip
all I
field.
want from Trey Palmer. Trey Palmer, give me some good returns. That's all I need.
Yeah, it'll definitely help out the offense if they can get some good special teams play in. But now moving on to the last pick of the draft, a guy actually discussed in our edge rusher episode, Jose Ramirez. No, not the third baseman for the Cleveland Guardians, but he had 12 sacks last year, second most in FBS. And he really did a wonderful job over there in Eastern Michigan. The big question with him is just, his physicality, his strength level, as well as the fact that he just wasn't playing great competition. It's kind of one of those awkward things where it's kind of a smaller school, so you kind of question, oh, is his production for real, or was he kind of just taking advantage of some mediocre competition? But still, you can never have enough edge rushers. I've said it a million times. I'll say it a million more. So I'm going to give the pick a B minus. They could have gone corner again. They could have gone safety. But I'm not upset about drafting another edge rusher, just giving a guy a chance to maybe earn a roster spot. How about you, Musab? What's the grade for this one?
For this one, I mean, since we're already going so kind of late with this, I'm kind of open to it. I'll probably just go B minus. I'll go B minus with this just because. I mean, obviously, he stood out, big time with the kind of conference he was in. That's the only thing that I kind of fear is like, how is this guy going to adjust? But I don't know. I mean, I think that he's a beast. Okay, I think he's got something in him. Honestly, there's just something to me, Carter, without really kind of thinking really deep about it. I just love those kind of small school kind of guys. I really want to give them the opportunity. He's got the size. This guy's standing at like 6'2", 240-ish pounds. He's a big dog. I think, we're trying to find, a group of pass rushing specialists, which is what the Bucs, really need. And I think he fits in well. So, I'll go B minus with this just because we're also looking at, like our latest or our last draft pick, really.
For sure. Yeah. Rotation pass rusher would be great at this spot. But we're kind of coming, we closed out the draft. We covered all the picks. Want to thank you all for sticking by us and listening to this whole episode. I know it was a bit of a long one, but we had a lot to cover. The draft just happened. A lot of good stuff to talk about. But if you liked what you heard, feel free to like and subscribe on YouTube or wherever you're listening to us from. Also, give us a follow on social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at RBLR Sports. Thank you again for tuning in. We'll see you next week. We'll talk about undrafted free agents. That'll be really fun. We'll hopefully get our boy Zach back on. And, as always, go Bucs.
Bucs.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.